Hi, and welcome to Equity Stories with Inderes. In this video, we're going to go through Fasadgruppen as an investment, and they're going through their equity story with the CEO, Martin Jacobsson. Hi, Martin, and welcome.
Thank you.
Let's go from the very basics and then towards your investment story in more detail. But let's start with the company and what it does. Fasadgruppen, the name probably reveals quite a bit, but
yes,
in short, what is
exactly.
Fasadgruppen?
So Fasadgruppen is a service provider, mainly focused on services on the outside of the building. So the group comprises of roughly 50 brands, and they are acting in various fields such as masonry, plastering, scaffolding, you could say sheet metal works, everything on the outside of the building. That's the main focus for Fasadgruppen.
Mm. And how has the company come to be to this day? I guess you've been around for quite some time.
Yes, so I've been with the company for 6 years now. And the company was founded in 2016. It was two second-generation entrepreneurs that saw a potential to grow within the market. And they saw especially synergies within, you could say, purchasing. And they founded a company. They had each one company within Fasad, and then they joined forces back in 2016. And so the entrepreneurial spirit is very at the core for us. So the culture throughout the years has been very focused around the entrepreneur. And we started to acquire companies then back in 2016. They were mainly part of an industry association, you could say, within masonry. That was the main focus back then. And then we quite quickly saw that there are several other adjacent services that you provide when you do. We mainly focus on renovation. When you do a renovation of a building, you also need various fields. So then we grew within sheet metal, as an example, or window renovation. And that then also we saw quite quickly that the markets within the rest of the Nordic countries were quite similar. So we started also to acquire companies outside of Sweden. And today Sweden is roughly 55-60% of the business. And then Norway and Denmark is roughly 20-25%. And then we have one company in Finland, which is the first company in Finland. It's located in Oulu, and we're expected to grow in Finland.
Right. So let's look at the market a bit. Building exteriors and renovations. Why is that an interesting field to be in right now? What's driving the market?
One key driver, I would say, is energy efficiency. So the European Union is looking into this sector, especially because of, you could say, the two largest emitters of carbon dioxide is within the transportation sector and within the real estate sector. And so we're focused on the real estate sector, and there are so many bad performing buildings out there. And with our services, we can decrease the energy usage in these buildings. So when you focus on the shell, you could think of it as like a sweater. If you have a really good sweater, then you're not as cold. And that's how we like to think about it as well. And if we can provide this very good sweater to our customers, we can improve the buildings and also decrease the energy usage. So that's a clear trend for us. But you can bear in mind here that this is not a new trend. It's been ongoing for many, many years. And to have a warm home is something that the human beings have been looking for since ever, you could say. But I would also say a clear trend, which has been ongoing for many, many years, is the tear and wear of the buildings. So you could say it's a service cycle on these buildings of like 15 to 30 years, which they need constant renovation and to improve just the ordinary things around the building, not only energy efficiency. So clear trends there, and we are seeing that the focus within energy efficiency is growing as well. Now with the European Green Deal, as an example, that is, I would say, a perfect match for us, because there will be more and more focus on buildings, on on how they are performing, and there we will provide assistance to the customers and decrease their energy usage going forward as well.
So if we think of these drivers and what it means for the market, I guess, since there's the energy efficiency trend, there's the constant wear and tear of the buildings. So I would guess the market is rather stable, but what's your view of the market going forward? Is it a growth market in the next 5 years?
It is definitely a growth market. I would say there are some numbers around this, but one thing that you can imagine is that roughly 1% of all the buildings are renovated yearly. This is in the European total. But to reach these goals that the European Union has set up, you need to at least double the renovation rate. So maybe like 2% of the buildings yearly, meaning a doubling in demand for the renovation side. So there are two main issues, I would say, going forward, because the demand will be plenty. There's who will do all of the renovation works, and so the lack of workforce, I would say, and also who will finance all of these projects going forward. So there are two challenges within the huge demand that we see. And you can also mention here that there are some part goals that the European Union has set up, where they mentioned that by 2030, 2033, that the 15% worst performing buildings will need to improve. And there are some low-hanging fruits there where you can improve the buildings in that sense, and there will be a perfect fit for our customer, I would say, and something that we'll be glad to help them with.
Right. So since the demand drivers look good, surely there is also competition in the field. So if we think of Fasadgruppen and your advantages, and also the disadvantages you maybe have competitively, how would you describe this?
No, excellent question. I mean, we are a full service provider, I would say. We are focused on M&A, so we have grown into fields that we did not have before. But now, especially in Sweden, we can provide the full palette for the customer. And that is where we are unique compared to our competitors, I would say. We have small local competitors in this very local market. If you live in Malmö, you have some competitors there, but you don't have a Nordic player such as ourselves as a competitor. We are unique in that sense. So going forward, it's a quite safe and pretty easy way for the customer to have a one-stop shop. If they want to renovate the exterior of their buildings, they know who to call. But on the other hand, then I would say that maybe we are not the cheapest player on the market. We are, I would say, one of the most professional ones, and customers that are aiming to really have an efficient building after renovation, they should turn to us. But maybe a disadvantage then that we will not be the cheapest one. But however, if it's tougher times going forward, the interest rates are high, then of course we can offer a safe alternative towards the customer, that we will be a strong financial partner towards them as well.
Maybe then in the most price-sensitive segment of the market, that's not where you're the strongest.
No, exactly, I would say.
Let's step into your strategy. Of course, you mentioned a couple of things already, doing M&A, consolidating the market, and also having a broad offering, which helps you bring the full service to the customer. But what are the choices you've made in your strategy, and what have you prioritized over maybe some other things that you maybe left out?
Yeah, so we have mainly focused on acquiring companies that have a proven track record, that have been profitable for many, many years. We have a financial goal that we want to have an EBITDA margin over 10% over a business cycle, which is, I would say, in our industry, so quite high. And we want to grow with companies that are strong financially. So that has been one, I would say, strategic initiative that we've taken from day one. But of course, we can be opportunistic as well. But that is one of the key areas, and that's also proven by our strong financial track record. What we've also thought about is that we should have a very, I would say, diverse service throughout the Nordic countries. So we don't want to just be dependent on one single market. So it's quite diversified in that sense. So we like that we're not, I mean, at the start we were 100% Sweden. Now it's almost 50% Sweden. So we have diversified. And I would say there's local variances throughout the countries where they are in the business cycle, which can be quite attractive throughout the cycle. That there are various cycles. So that's also an initiative that we took quite early on in the process, I would say. And how we grow mainly through taking direct contact with these entrepreneurs through our network, you could say. This is also very important for us because then we know what we get when we acquire the company, so in a sense. Because if you know the company before, and maybe it's a competitor or a subcontractor or something like that, but if you have a relationship with the company before you acquire it, then it's much, much easier to then integrate it into our systems. And so that's also been key focus here on when we acquire companies. Right.
So if I were to rephrase that, how I understood it is that you have the certain service setup that you have across all locations you have. And the way you grow right now is that you try to find companies that you can bring this or have this setup, or you can bring this setup to. And you don't take big turnaround cases, for example, but rather you try to have a certain financial stability, which I guess in a certain sense it reduces your risks. But at the same time, those are not going to be the cheapest acquisition targets. So that's a bit of a trade-off that you...
Yeah, you could say that. But then on top of that, we see now that we are a full service provider, which we weren't that in the beginning. Now we can also provide a more, let's say, organic growth, because then we can provide the customer the stating that have a coordinated approach towards the customer, saying, okay, we can assist you with a full renovation of this building. And if you want to go from energy class G to energy class A, then we can provide that service because of the exterior is such a huge part of the energy usage. Going back to the sweater, which I mentioned. And so that's also like the next step, you could say, in our journey here. So first, consolidate market, get a bigger market position, then provide an organic initiative towards the customer. So that's also in this next phase here where we're going forward.
And briefly touching on the risks of the strategy, what are the toughest things to do when you execute the strategy, and what are the most likely places to fail that you need to manage?
Yeah, good question. I would say when we acquire these companies, they are entrepreneurial driven. So the entrepreneurs is of course key here. We want the entrepreneur to stay on as long as possible. And you could say that when we first take contact with a company, we want entrepreneurs that want to take their company to the next level and be a part of something bigger where they can join forces with like-minded entrepreneurs. Because now they get introduced to a world where they are not alone, so to speak. Because a lot of these entrepreneurs, they have this small local company working for themselves, but now they get colleagues on another sense that they've not had before. So that's part of our culture, that we want to be this facade community, you could say facade family, which is very attractive for these entrepreneurs, I would say. So that's a key issue there, I would say, for these targets then.
Yeah, keeping the entrepreneurial spirit alive.
Very, very much so. Yeah. And that's, we're very proud of our heritage, because we were founded by entrepreneurs. And the oldest company that we have in the group is more than 120 years old. So there is a lot of history in these companies, even though Fasadgruppen is new. But the services that we provide has been around for many thousand years, I would say. And the companies that is included have so much history and are still providing services to the customers today. So we're very proud of our entrepreneurial heritage.
Now, wrapping all this up, for the investor in Fasadgruppen, what is the value creation model that you use that in the end should, if all goes well, pay up for the owner?
So I can go back to the start there, that the first two companies that merged, they saw potential within purchasing. So you could say that there are large players within the material suppliers, you know, players like Saint-Gobain, Stu, SSAB, they are Rockwool, they are like our suppliers then. And we saw that if we could join forces together, be a stronger part towards these suppliers, we could have a decrease in prices. So that was like the main story at the start, and that is still ongoing. And when we consolidate this market, we are centralizing purchasing. So that is one of the largest synergies, I would say, and how we are aiming to be an even more profitable company going forward. But as well as, I would say, we can improve these companies because we have so much history in how to take a company to the next level. And we have a system, we could say, with the boards in all of our subsidiaries, which is connected on how should you take your company to the next level. I mean, you can always improve your company depending on where you're starting from. So that system is I mean, you could say our blueprint is very much at the core for Fasadgruppen. And the first two merging companies that I mentioned, they had already taken the company to, let's say, a quite high level. So in that sense, we have plenty of knowledge on how to grow companies as well in a profitable way. So we think that both within the purchasing and in the improving companies, then you can have a perfect match and something that should thrive for years here. We have, I mean, an eternal horizon within Fasadgruppen, and we have eager players within our subsidiaries that want to take their company to the next level. So that's a huge part of what we are aiming for going forward.
Right. So investors in Fasadgruppen should be expecting efficiency improvements, so you try to keep your profitability on a good trend, but also reallocation of the capital you make into the company via M&A. So a profitable growth story.
Exactly. So you could say it's a very asset-light model as well, because we don't have any large factories or so. And we have a cash conversion target of 100% as well. So meaning that this cash that the companies generate will be allocated correctly. And I mean, we've grown from when I started back in 2017, we had revenues of like 300 million. Now it's closer to 5 billion. So we've had a quite a strong growth, I would say, and we are aiming to grow. We've set up by 2028, we want like 10 billion in revenues and 1 billion in EBITDA. That's one short-term goal, even though we still have this 15% annual growth target over the business cycle. And what's so nice with this 15% growth target is that every 5 years, then you double. So from 2023 to 2028, with a 15% annual average growth, then you would reach roughly 10 billion, sorry.
Thank you, Martin. This was a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, thanks
for coming around.
Thanks.
And thanks for all the viewers as well. You can follow Fasadgruppen and other companies on Inderes.se. Bye-bye.